know, typically on Angler on Tour, we'll take you behind the scenes of competitive fishing. I take you practicing with me, and I show you what's happening on the tournament trail. But there's a lot of times that I just like to go out and just whack them. I'm going to take you to Monroe, Michigan, to one of my favorite places up off of Lake Erie. We'll fish with one of my best buddies. So stay tuned. We'll be right back for some great largemouth action. Okay, just go jump. There you go. Well, here we are on Lake Guntersville, probably one of the finest fishing lakes in the country. We're practicing for the Bassmaster Tour event. We're in north central Alabama. It's April, and finally things are starting to warm up just a little bit. This lake has been producing probably the biggest stringers in the country consistently week after week. Local tournaments are all taking, you know, 15 to 25 pounds just to be in the money, and it's just been incredible, incredible weights, incredible catches. You know, things are kind of coming down to crunch time here, and the last tournament really put me in a position to where I've got a good chance to make the Classic. I'm in tied for 49th place, and they're going to take 30 anglers. Only a couple events left, and this is where the head games start to take place. You know, the pressure really starts, you start to feel it. I sense it, you know. I get in the morning, I'm thinking about it, and, you know, I go to bed, I'm thinking about it, and just the closer you get to the end of the year, the tighter that feeling, the more butterflies you get, even on practice days. And, you know, I know practice probably you shouldn't be too tense, but it's hard to kind of put that out of your mind, you know, when you're focusing on that goal all year long, and it's coming down to just the last couple events. And you literally, I'm in a position right now where I can't make a mistake. I can't have a bad day. And literally a couple of just good, solid top 30 finishes will put me where I need to be in that top 30. I know that. And I got to make sure that I don't try and be too conservative either, especially on a good lake like this, because you try and just catch a little limit every day on a place like this, you get your brains beat in. That's just the way it is. These isolated stumps like this are hard to see when it's cloudy. It's sunny, you can see them a mile away. We're only fishing about 1.5 feet, 2 foot of water. And this is, you know, a perfect situation for them to set up the spawn before they move in the back. You know, what you'll see too in this tournament, I guarantee you, is you're going to have fish that are just moving up, what they call staging, probably on shallow, flat points with grass, waiting to move in. You're going to have fish that are further into the spawn. They'll be up in these shallow areas. There's another one of those stumps, ka-thunk. They'll be further up in these shallow areas, and, you know, there'll be some caught in that transition, and then there'll actually be fish caught bed, and I guarantee there'll be some guys back in the backwater pockets that will find some that they can actually look at and catch them and sight fish them. The pros on tour are probably some of the most versatile guys there are. I mean, there's a lot of sight fishing goes on, and you know, but again, everybody has their strength. I would rather be able to move around and you know, fish isolated stumps, things like that I can see. That's just a little bit more my strong suit. Use a little floating worm or maybe a lizard like this to catch them. You've never seen a lake that get as much local traffic as this lake gets and continue to produce like it does. I mean, this lake gets beat on. I mean, they have Wednesday night tournaments and Saturday tournaments and Sunday tournaments, and the big tournaments come, the little tournaments. Every boat ramp has a tournament, and it just keeps on producing these big stringers of fish. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. They're right off that tree. This must have been spawning by that root. Either too, buddy. I'll show you something interesting too here about this fish. Most places are real nice fish, right? 14 inches, won't even weigh in this tournament. That's what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with that a lot in this tournament. So, you know, got to find where the bigger ones are at. I'm gonna plug this spot into my GPS, hit create. I'll just put flat 1. Save as. Got it. You know, I punch a lot of places in on my bottom line here in my GPS just because of the fact that, you know, it looks like this is a very obvious place. But you factor in a hard rain, or you factor in fog, or, you know, some variable that Mother Nature throw at you, and I promise you there'll be a lot of times where you need that GPS coordinate to get back here. A lot of times it'll just prompt my memory. You know, if I plug a spot in, I try and name it like Spawn Flat or Flat 1 or you know, spinnerbait stumps or something that triggers my memory. That way when I'm going back and scrolling through my menu, I can recall the situation a lot of times. And you know, when you practice 3 full days and then even into the tournament, you might be dealing with 12, 15, 20, 25, 30 places, and you know, the old brain can only process and keep straight so much. You know, this is high tech. You know, you just log it in. It's like putting it in your laptop and you're good to go.
Don't go away. Angler on Tour. We'll be right back.
It's just amazing. I'm so used to fishing this lake way out off the bank. And like I said, the first couple of days of practice, I was able to get a few bites out there in that open water. It just seems like the majority of fish have moved into this shallow water. If you look, I'm sitting in 1.7, 1.5, 1.2 feet. I mean, it's super shallow here, and you know, you can literally see the bottom. It's one wonder a lot of times in these fish when they bite that I can't actually see them bite. But it's so typical this time of the year, this spawning time. If you ever get on the lake and that water starts hitting 60, 65, you really need to get in these shallow pockets and look around and fish. You know, I was raised fishing the Ohio River, and the water is pretty dirty. We didn't really have an opportunity to sight fish, but what we would do, we would take this little lizard on a light weight and just go through spawning shallow flat areas and just kind of blind cast around, or any dark spot or you know, stump in the water. It's just, you know, when they're in there, they're gonna get on every stump. A lot of times they'll actually spawn right on top of the stump. They'll actually fan the nest right on top of the stump if it's in a real silted area. There's a lot of stumps out in here. There's one. That's a better fish. He was right off that stump right over there. They're just littered. You know, you come to the back of these pockets and you get 3 or 4 of them, and they're real shallow with no stumps, and you pull into one, there's a stump there, there, and there, and you see the shadow of it, and you make a long cast at that lizard, and you get them. I like the look of this. This is really unique back here. I've got some little stems from lily pads. A lot of times when you have lily pad stems like that protruding out of the water, it means it's a sandy bottom, and usually fish will spawn around those things. You see a lot of times when they'll bed right in those lily pad stems, or at least stage to move on up. I've just got a little 3/16 ounce weight here, and fishing on a 3/0 hook, little Texas rig pumpkin green lizard. Just fishing on a 14-pound line, just making long casts. A lot of times when you can't actually see the fish bedding, the water's stained like we have here, you just kind of pitch around and throw at the light spots. Just kind of blind fishing, and when it comes through one's nest, they'll whack it. They're definitely on these stumps. I mean, I'm getting quite a few bites. It's kind of overcast, it's a little tougher to see them, but you know, if you get it around a stump, there's some fish there. And I think what it is it's these males, the smaller fish moving in, and they're starting to fan the nest. Some of their tails are kind of roughed up, and I think what's going to happen is hopefully by the tournament, the bigger girls will move in here, and I'm just going to try and find some areas that have a lot of stumps and, you know, shallow stuff like that, where I can get a lot of bites, and, you know, hopefully the big ones will follow up. fish in here, and it's just not very big. That's a little better. Oh man, it came off. Well, that's the thing about practice. Doesn't matter when they come off. That was about a 2.5 pound fish, a little bit nicer fish. And again, just that little stob right over there. I just threw that lizard over there and it swam off with it. That bullet weight came back. When that fish came off, that bullet weight back, it kind of hit me right square in the chin. That's why you wear sunglasses. Everybody thinks it's just so you can see in the water and to protect your eyes from the sun. I want to tell you something. That dude right there with a rod loaded, the fish jumps and it comes unbuttoned, that thing can put an eye out. There's a lot of people who have lost their eyes. Kind of like a Red Ryder BB gun. It can put your eye out. Wear sunglasses when you fish.
Here's this week's Angler on Tour trivia question. What is the largest bass ever caught in competition sanctioned by BASS? Is it A, 12 pounds, 7 ounces, B, 14 pounds, 9 ounces, C, 16 pounds, or D, 18 pounds, 8 ounces? We'll have the answer to that question plus more. Angler on Tour with Joe Thomas coming up. B, 14 pounds, 9 ounces. Now here's more Angler on Tour with Joe Thomas.
Made one more stop out here, give you an idea what I'm talking about when I talk about fishing the Main River Channel. First day of practice, I caught several big ones, 4.5 to 5 pounds, right out here on the Main River. You can see I got boats running left and right. This is actually the barge channel behind me, the Main River where the barges navigate. I'm right here at the buoy line, but where I'm throwing is only about 4 foot deep. And I've got hydrilla growing up off of this river ledge. It comes up out of 35 foot of water, and it tops off at about 4 foot and then tapers back down on the far side. It's just like a berm. And the fish that live out here typically are a good quality fish. Obviously, I proved that the first day of practice. And they basically live and spawn and probably die out here. You know, they live their whole lives out here. It's just a totally different type of fish. And they're just staging to move on up to spawn. But the first day I caught them slow rolling this spinnerbait about 1.5 miles up the channel here, and all I'm doing really is I'm taking this heavy spinnerbait, this 3/4 ounce spinnerbait with a big willow leaf blade, throwing on heavy line. I just throw it out there, and then I just let it kind of sink down a few feet, and then slowly start to roll it through the grass. And most of my bites were occurring when the bait would just snap free of the grass. That happens a lot when you got a hydrilla or milfoil. You just kind of milk that bait, pull that bait through, and when it pops free of the grass is when they'll munch it. You know, one of the things that I've had happen here, though, on this river ledge is these fish are so fickle. They're so current-oriented. And you whack them one day, and then the next day you can't get a bite out here. But when you find them and that current's moving, you can really catch them. It always kind of calls to me. I've had some of the biggest catches I've had in my career on Guntersville Lake have been right on this Main River ledge. Found a little bay. I'm off the main lake. Actually, I had to come through a culvert. If you can see, there's a causeway bridge over here, and the water in here is about 4 degrees warmer than the stumpy area that I was fishing earlier today. And I've pulled into this area. It's fairly clear, and I've seen several fish spawning along through here, and it's telling me that it's starting to happen. You know, that the fish are coming to the beds, especially in these protected areas, and that's really not my strongest suit. You know, I might have to come in and try and fish for a couple of these fish. I'll show you one right here. This fish right here. You watch, I'll throw this bait in here just to see what she'll do to it. And you watch what it, sometimes you can just see if you can get them agitated. Oh, she's got it. I wanted to catch one of them just to see how big they are, because a lot of times they'll fool you in the water. There's a half a dozen fish about like this scattered out along this bank. And I went up and just kind of looked at some of them. A couple of them I threw to, but that's about a 15-inch, 16-inch fish, you know. Nice fat 2.5 pounder. You see the tail's just a little bit bloody right there. just starting to fan out, you know. And this one was pretty easy. I'm not the best bed fisherman in the world, but this fish here was pretty easy. It'd be hard for me not to come in here and try and whack out a quick limit of these. Let her go back so I can get her again. It's always about this time of the day, the third day of practice, that I start getting that. I feel like I got about a 500-pound rock on my shoulders. You know, I've caught a lot of fish. You know, I've had 5 keepers a day, and counting the day I caught them out, the big ones on the river ledge, I've had one good stringer out of 3 days. But I just know that I'm really not on the fish that I need to be on to get in that, you know, top 20, which is basic top 20, 25, which is what I need in each of the last 2 tournaments. And I don't know what to do to change it. I've flipped boat docks. I've trapped with a lipless crankbait. I've fished outside grass lines and tried a lot of traditional things that work. And the only thing I've been able to consistently make work is casting a soft plastic bait at visible cover or the bedfish. But you know, I've had some bad practices that turned into really good tournaments, and I'm almost betting on Mother Nature to help me here. You know, if the better fish move into these areas, like I've said, you know, I could get well in a heartbeat, but I just don't know how fast I'll get here. I've seen that water temperature come up a couple of degrees every day, and you know, more and more fish are hitting the banks, and more fish are leaving that main lake, which has kind of got me a little nervous too. But again, kind of spread out in my thought processes, and you know, what's the best thing to do, whether to go out there and just lock down on that main river channel and fish that spinnerbait all day for 5 bites and try and catch a big stringer, or to play it a little safer and get back in here and get a for sure limit. So you know, that's the kind of thing that goes through your mind. And the weather's always an issue too. It's gonna got a little front coming through. It's gonna blow a little bit tomorrow, so you know, I got to factor that in. It's going to be hard to see the beds if it's blowing real hard, and it'll be hard to stay on that river channel for sure. So I just kind of have to play it as it comes. But again, you know, it's just anytime you get this season winding down, this is 19th year for me, and it never changes. It seems like when it gets down to crunch time, you know, it's the last couple of tournaments, you just really feel it. And I've put myself in a position this year by having a couple of bad tournaments there at the start to where I can't mess up anymore, you know. That drop tournament's already been taken. I've already used that drop tournament.
Don't go away. Angler on Tour will be right back.
Well, day 1 could not have gone any worse. As predicted, the catches were huge, and I only weighed 2 keepers for just under 5 pounds. Just zigging when I should have zagged. I went into that bedding area first thing in the morning to try and get some of those bedding fish. The wind was blowing pretty hard, and I got in there and there were several boats. The place was covered up. It was a small area. And I couldn't get on the key stretch that had most of the bedding fish, so I pulled out to the main river channel, and the wind was just blowing so hard and whitecapping that I couldn't fish out there. So basically it was plan C, go in and fish the stumps, and I caught about 14 or 15 bass, but I only had 2 keepers. And then right at the end of the day, I hooked one about 5 pounds and fought the fish all around, and my partner had the net in the water, and it made one last little run and got hung up in a piece of crappie line, a jig line, and wrapped up and pulled off, and that was my day. Oh, that's that. Yeah, I don't think I've ever wanted to leave of the lake so bad in all my life. Here I am on the best lake in the country and fishing stellar, and I've had one of the worst events in recent history. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I'm embarrassed, but You know, final day, I only had a little over 7 pounds. I had 3 keepers, and I just, you know, I was like I was on a different lake than everybody else. And, you know, to see the whole year just go up in smoke it's just more than I really want to deal with at this point, you know. And I don't even feel like I belong on the same playing field this week, you know. And sometimes when this happens, you feel like you can't catch a bass, and that's just where I've been. And it's like I'm chasing my tail, and I'm just very, very disappointed in the outcome. And as far as the other guys and how the weigh-in went, just take a look at what the leaders on the final day, the day after the cut, look what they weigh in, and look at the totals, and just figure out how great a lake Lake Guntersville is and how bad I feel for catching 25 pounds for 3 days.
Scales, he is going to lead the event. 12 pounds, 11 ounces.